Hey, hi and welcome back. Now let's start with the component placement of power supply section and motor driver section. Alright, so now let's start with this video. So let's start with the power supply section first, okay. We have placed all the components here as per the DXF file. After that, what you can do, if you don't want to move, we know that the position of these all components are fixed, okay. And we don't want to move these components. So what you can do, you can go to the properties and later you can lock the component, okay. And if I click on apply and if I click on OK, then you will see that this plus icon, the orientation of this plus icon, it will change, okay. So you just observe that. And if I click on apply and then OK, so you notice this plus icon is now crossed. And if I try to move this component now, I can't move this, okay. I can't move this. I can select this one, but I can't move this one, okay. So likewise, you can select and lock or rest of the components. So let me quickly do that. Alright, so we have logged all the components now, and even if we do any kind of mistake, they will not move. Alright, so now let's start with the placement of rest of the components. Now we will go section by section, and let's first of all let's see the power supply section, and I will zoom this part now, and you can refer this particular section when we are placing the components. So first of all, let's start with the diode. We have already placed the DC female jack. So I will select the show option here and let's grab this diode. So this is basically the diode, and let's take this diode and let's place it here. So let me change the grid to, because it's too fine. Let me change it to 10 mil here, and I will change it to 10. And I have selected the 10 mil grid. It's because it's suitable, while creating the layout. And you can see at this moment, this plus icon is actually not on the grid. So in that case, you just have to press the control button and automatically it will come on the grid, okay. When we place the components, at that time, the process is actually very slow. Now that I'm creating the video, so I already know where I have to place that particular component, okay. So generally the process will be very slow, while placing the component on the PCB, and it should be slow. You have to take the proper decision where your power supply section should be, where the components of power supply section should be placed, where the controller section will be placed. So all those things, this actually makes the process of placing the components on the layout editor very slow. But I already know where I have to place the component. So that's why this layout creation or component placement process, in our case, it's going to be a little bit faster. All right. So now let's grab the 7805 IC first. So I will just get this one and I will click on show. And this is basically the IC. So I'm just going to select this one, and later I will place it here. All right. So now likewise, I'm just going to select all the components which are present on the power supply section, and one by one I will place all those components. Okay. So let me fast forward now. Now here you notice that I have actually rotated the component. It's because I want the ground of these two capacitors on this side, okay, not on this side. I can see that there is actually direct track from, the input side of this IC, from this capacitor, then from this capacitor and towards this diode, okay. That's why I'm placing the ground on this side, and also it's going to make the layout little bit compact. That's the reason I'm actually placing the, the ground on that side. Otherwise, you can also place the ground on this side. You can rotate the component like this, and you can also place the ground on this side, okay, like this. Now let me get rest of the components and let me place those components. Alright, so we are done with the component placement of all the components of power supply section. Now as I told you, every time you place the component on the layout editor, you have to press this icon, which is a rat nest, and it's actually going to resolve all the connection, okay. So here there was a lot of mess. Now once I clicked on this rat nest, you can see all the base is now resolved, okay. So this is actually not the final placement. Later you can adjust. So this is just a rough placement, and later you can do the changes as per your requirement. So till now we are done with the power supply section. Now let's place the power LED on our layout. So you can see here, this is actually the 5 volt output. From here the 5 volt is going to come. So for us, this will be more preferred orientation for us. Like 5 volt can go directly from this, the output of capacitor directly towards this resistor. Okay, I will show you. I just have to click on this resistor. So you can see this is the 5 volt side of this resistor. This is actually the capacitor. So side by side we can actually place this resistor to this capacitor. This will actually form a direct connection, and that will actually, we just have to make sure that the layout complexity should be as less as possible. Accordingly we have to place the components on the layout editor. Alright, so now let me place the LED. Now here I will rotate the LED like this, because here there is a direct connection. Okay, so it will be much convenient to place the LED like this rather than like this. Okay, so I hope that you got this one. So I will just rotate it and I will place it like this. So we are done with the power LED also. Now let's place the components of this motor driver section. So let's place the components of motor driver section. So we have the IC first. So let me quickly place all the components. The process is just repetitive. We just have to search for that particular component, grab that component, and later we have to place that particular component or the footprint of that component on the layout editor. Now this particular capacitor, which is of 10 microfarad, it should be as close as possible to this particular IC, because this is actually a capacitor is responsible for handling the dV by dt. Okay, or if this particular IC needs a current, if there is a sudden requirement of current from this particular IC, then that current requirement will be fulfilled by this 10 microfarad capacitor. Okay, and I told you that based on the current requirement of the device, we actually select the appropriate capacitor so that the capacitor can handle that or fulfill that current requirement when the IC is demanding the current suddenly. Alright, so let's place this 10 microfarad capacitor as close as possible, and after that let's look for 0.1 microfarad capacitor now. Now here you can see you can actually overlap or you can create the space. It's up to you. Generally I prefer to overlap the components, because that's actually going to take less space on the PCB. So if you see here you can see the cell screen of this capacitor and this capacitor is actually overlapped. Okay, this is actually going to save a lot of space on the PCB, and along with that there is actually a lot separation between them, so we don't have to bother about that. Okay, so let's overlap, and this cell screen will not be printed on this footprint, so that's actually not a point of concern for us. So after that I will click on rat nest. Alright, so we are done with the component placement of power supply section and motor driver section, and in next video we will complete the component placement of rest of the section. Okay, so I will see you in the next video now.